Hey guys, Big Kid here. Just wanted to take a moment and show off a solution I think I've come up with for the Korbanth L6 or LS6 heatsink issue. And I know I've seen a couple people have come up with some ideas, and I know the Custom Saber Shop is actually working on a really nice copper heatsink and all that. But I just figured I would show you a quick solution that I had come up with. This is a Saber Bay on Etsy. If you look for a Saber Bay, this is their K4 heatsink. It's a 7/8 heatsink made to fit inside of a 1-inch thin wall blade. In fact, I have my Obi-Wan blade right here. It's designed to fit inside the blade so that the blade can be put in and locked in place on the K4 Obi-Wan hilt from Korbanth. Well, I thought, well, why can't I try something like that in here? And the difference is obviously the hole that threads through here is quite large, but on the other hand, the hole in here is also quite large. So I thought, well, if I found the right size nut, and I looked around and did some research, and it turns out that a 10/32 inch lock nut will fit perfectly on here. Well, I shouldn't say perfectly. You may have to ream out the nylon part a little bit. But what I've done here is I've already prepped my green, white tricrete here. And what I did is I've taken my Dremel with a sanding drum, and I've just knocked down the edges here a bit, just so it'll fit inside of a 7/8 heat sink. The lens, we already know, does fit inside. And we'll set that aside. That really pertains to nothing for now. But anyway, a quick solution that I came up with for the blade holder is we'll take a piece of 1-inch stock if you have it. Something that preferably that you can get your finger in so that you can move it around if you need to. Go ahead and put that 1-inch stock in there with the blade holder in. You can go ahead and tighten that up if you want to. And we're going to go ahead and do that. I think we're going to just not too tight. We're just going to, because we want it centered, so we want to take our time and we want to just give it a couple turns on each side, or maybe even just a turn on each side, just so that we know that we're pretty centered in there, and that looks pretty good. All right, and then what I've done is taking a look at the back side of this. Now there's several ways we can handle this, but we've got to be able to fit inside of the original stem there. So these lock washers turn out to be the perfect solution. And what I've done is I've, like I've said, I've went and taken my 10/32 tap, and I went ahead and just went through the nut just to loosen it up so it wouldn't fight me too much when I start to crank down on it. Don't want to overdo it. You don't want to kill it. One thing you should keep in mind is this is not a permanent, so this is not a ideal solution. Ideally, we would want some kind of copper dissipated heat sink, of course. Something like what the Custom Saber Shop has already shown a prototype of. And of course, this will go on top, and and all of this will become a heat sink. And I'll show you how the blade works after this. But basically, you've got your blade in there, you've got it locked in. Just hold it, give it some turns. Don't kill it. Just crank it down enough to where it's nice and snug. And then we can undo our blade. We'll loosen that up a little bit. And bear with me, guys. I have a cold once again. So, and there we have it. If you take a look at that, you see we've got a dead centered blade holder in there. It's nice and tight. We know that we can use the adhesive tape, or we can go ahead and use the glue, the LED glue. So we can super glue that probably on there like we would with the Obi-Wan Kenobi hilt. But either way, you have your hollow Saber Bay 7/8 heat sink, and with that nut on there, and this is the great part, that nut with that hole your wires can run through does fit on the stem. And there's the magic of it all right there. You can put your blade in then, and we have to crank that down to get our our emitter back on, we have to tighten those screws up, because those screws actually stick in the way of the emitter going back on. So there's 2 screws for this, 2 set screws, I should say. So we'll just tighten them back up, and then we will slide our emitter piece from the blade tip all the way on, and we'll tighten that up, and there you have it. Now, I would, just like the Obi-Wan hilt, I don't recommend that this method is for dueling too hard, but it's pretty solid in there, and I feel it's a good way that you can at least get your wiring in there and wire your LED and get some light into this saber. Now, next up, I'm going to work on the chassis part and try and get a nano biscotti hooked up to this some point soon. So hopefully I'll have a follow-up video for that. I plan on trying to use an existing chassis that was made once again for the K4 by Korbanth. The inside of here is the 7/8, so it does fit the chassis that are made for the K4. So we'll see how that comes out, and I'll keep you posted. Stay tuned.